Insurgency is everything a great first-person shooter should have, and plenty more besides. A modern military shooter that manages to incorporate realism, great map design, authentic sound effects within a well-balanced game. This hardcore tactical shooter can make you feel like John J. Rambo one minute and Gomer Pyle the next. The game is best experienced in its PvP mode, where careful navigation of the map and covering your corners might make you live that little longer. I can think of no better game that can give you better clutch moments where you're the only man in your team left against an untold number of enemies. But even in co-op, the bots will challenge you. They won't run headlong into your line of sight. Given half a chance, they will flank you and they will kill you. New World Interactive looks to be embracing their community too with free DLC and mod support, keeping this feeling fresh months after its January release. Bigger AAA titles, please take note. The Wolf Among Us is a 5-episode series based on Fables, an award-winning comic book series by Bill Willingham. It is a violent, hard-boiled thriller where the characters and creatures of myth, lore, and legend are real and exist in our world. Your choices matter and will change and define the story you experience. Just like the graphic novels it's based on, Telltale Games nails the story. The plot is engaging, with great quick-time events. The pacing's just right, giving the player enough to be satisfied with, but leaving out just enough to make the player look forward to the next series. In-game decisions are weighty and feel like they matter to the story's progression. This is no Disney adventure. There'll be no happy endings after all. In video games based around war and conflict, you are expected, encouraged even, to kill as many of the enemy as possible, so it's a brave game that goes against that grain. Valiant Hearts, The Great War, is a story of crossed destinies and a broken love in a world torn apart. All of them will try to survive the horror of the trenches, following their faithful canine companion. In Valiant Hearts, The Great War, the lives of all of these characters are inextricably drawn together over the course of the game. Friendship, love, sacrifice, and tragedy befall each one as they help each other to retain their humanity against the horrors of war. In this 2D animated comic book adventure, the puzzles are fairly simple, but instead of that being a negative, they keep the touching story and its well-written characters moving along as it plays out in front of you in a pleasing art style. Brought to you by the amazing UbiArt game engine. Have you ever given up before you've even started? If you have, then perhaps you work for Teon, the developers who made Rambo the video game. A lackluster game with no redeeming features. Just looking at it, you have to constantly remind yourself that it was made in 2014, not 1987. When you take into account it was delayed from its 2013 planned release, you have to wonder what the hell was going on. What did they use to polish on? Dog shit? There was no character movement on this on-the-rail shooter, Operation Wolf Clone. You just control the crosshair shooting at enemies that all look alike again and again and again. It also has the worst quick-time events I've seen. Don't ninjas have quick reflexes? You're going to have to restart again and again and again. After only a few minutes in, you've seen everything it has to offer. It's momentous and brain-numbing. Even die-hard Rambo fans will not get enjoyment from this. I cannot see a reason for this game to exist. So, if it's that poor, it's going to be cheap, right? Wrong. This is almost a full-price game. To ask the price for this, you must have King Kong balls. To quote Rambo himself, "Nothing is over. Nothing. You just don't turn it off. It wasn't my war." Thankfully, you can turn this war off, uninstall it, and never return to it again. Warlock 2, The Master of the Arcane. The sequel to Innoco Plus's Paradox-published 2012 fantasy strategy hit. Anyone who's ever touched a Civ, Edor, or Disciples game will feel right at home here. On a hex-based map, you compete with AI opponents to build your empire and your armies, and ultimately assert your dominance according to a variety of definable victory conditions. The best part is, you're not just a mouse clicker. You're also a powerful wizard who can draw on a wide range of spells to help or hinder, as you see fit. Hardcore strategists may scoff at this strategy light, but there's hours and hours of fun to be had here. The mechanics are straightforward, but like all the best strategy, the depth comes from the combination of smart AI and a wide variety of paths through the game. The Warlock games share a universe with a venerable majesty hands-off fantasy strategies, and are all the richer for it. This was probably my most played game of 2014. Divinity Original Sin. For me, this was the year's Skyrim. Divinity Original Sin is an incredibly deep top-down RPG that carries on many of the themes of Larian's absolutely excellent Divine Divinity series, while also bringing a whole lot of new to the table. Divinity fans and newcomers alike will find a detailed world to explore, bursting with characters to talk to and work with. Like all the best RPGs, particularly the classic D&Ders, the writing is key here. It's absolutely excellent stuff, and like the before-mentioned Warlock games, benefits from an already established universe packed with neat fantasy ideas. This is not the stodgy Germania of the Gothic series, nor the plotting genre trope zoo of the Elder Scrolls narratives, but something self-aware and lightly humorous. If you need something to hunker down with and keep you going through the long winter nights, look no further. The Sims 4. When number 4 was announced, there was some concern that it was too soon, that the technology perhaps hadn't advanced enough to warrant a fourth entry in the series. Well, although not quite as homogeneous as, say, Battlefield 3 and 4, there's a lot that's similar and familiar with the previous Sims games, particularly 3. However, there's a lot that's new and different too, and crucially, it is enough to justify the new game. In broad strokes, the key differences are in the scale of the playable area, down from 3's town size to a more intimate neighborhood size. The intuitive new controls for the building and furnishing system, arguably a whole game in its own right, and in the Sims themselves, the new emotion system. With what technological advances have been made in terms of graphics, etc., these changes do justify the price. The neighborhood setting is much more conducive to intimate drama, and you still get a whole town-sized map to play in. So all the necessary shops, bars, and services are all there, which the new emotion systems facilitates incredibly well. At the end of the day, The Sims 4 is now the best place to start for newcomers, as well as being a welcome step forward for old fans. If you can overlook EA's somewhat tight-fisted approach with the feature releases, the base game will serve you well for years to come. Good stuff. Being a fan of the iconic Gabriel Knight series, I've always held Jane Jensen as one of the best and brightest writers and producers in the adventure game genre. You can also imagine how hyped I was when Jensen started the Kickstarter campaign back in April 2012. My expectations kept rising with every update that Pinkerton wrote and Jane Jensen posted on the Kickstarter campaign page, and I got really ecstatic when the project was successfully funded in May. Gray Matter, released in 2010, was a really good game, and nothing in the world could have raised the fans' alert level for Mobius. Much to my disappointment, the game sadly didn't deliver. From a bland and hard-to-believe main character, through the clunkiness of the user interface, to a rather pretentious plot involving metaphysical influences in saving the world, this game turned out to be definitely not what the fans were prepared to receive. If you take Mobius and pair it with other adventure games, it doesn't look that bad, but it is nowhere near what it was supposed to be, and what it actually was announced as, a spiritual successor to the Gabriel Knight series. With its strong sci-fi influences, this World War II themed shooter took me completely by surprise, as I never would have expected it to be that good. Bethesda's producers have done a hell of a job learning their lessons from the past. The overloaded with supernatural shit 2009 Wolfenstein springs to mind. And thanks to a very capable developer, Machine Games, the gameplay has been elevated to a new level. From the cleverly created alternative reality 1960s setting, with Germany having won World War II, to the very likable main character, smart enemies and meaty weapons, and really interesting level design, all of the game's elements have been put together with true class. And it really sucked me in. Also, being Polish, I'm especially happy with how the Polish-related elements were graciously injected into the plot. Well done, Machine Games. Well done, Bethesda. I've been a huge fan of Assetto Corsa from its D1 debut on Steam Early Access back in November 2013. With the vast experience Kuno Simulazioni has had in the racing game industry, their new title was bound to be a hit in terms of realistic handling. And indeed, Assetto Corsa falls nothing short of exceptional in this department, with only the one-of-a-kind iRacing being a more realistic racer. But Assetto Corsa's strengths also lie in its extensive modability and more budget-friendly price tag than iRacing, which is essentially a subscription-based product. Kunos also have a long list of upcoming content features as well as tweaks for current game content that should easily translate into years of incredibly addictive racing experiences. This is one of those games that you don't simply love or hate, but love and hate in equal measures at the same time. Sure, it's power-hungry and totally console-optimized in terms of its user interface and controls, but it has something special that's hard to grasp and characterize. As with Skyrim, for example, even though you may have some concerns about how things were designed and how some quests are rather dull and repetitive, you just can't go to sleep without just one more quest syndrome, at least once or twice before logging into your bed for the night. This is exactly how I see Dragon Age Inquisition, a unique blend of pros and cons, which instead of disaffecting you, makes you like it so much more. What? Another zombie game? Yeah, well I thought that too, especially with a market saturated with every type of zombie game imaginable. But Dead State is a shining star among the crowd. In this turn-based, group-based RPG, you're in charge of a group of survivors, trying to, survive in a zombie apocalypse scenario. The combination of exploration and searching for supplies, micromanaging your limited resources, and working on base improvements will keep you busy and engaged. Pretty soon you're more worried about a mutiny and the psychological state of your group of survivors than you are about the zombies. The structure and balance of the game are spot on. To sum it up, Dead State delivers on multiple levels and keeps you motivated and fearful at the same time. Will the zombies storm the fence? Do I have enough food? Is Bobby gonna go ballistic and kill everybody in their sleep? Good times, good times. I've been waiting for over 25 years for this game, having spent hours on end in my youth playing the original on my old Olivetti 486. Wasteland 2 is a turn-based and party-based RPG with tactical combat, set in a post-nuclear cataclysmic setting. In this game, with branching storylines, you're constantly facing moral choices that have major consequences on how the game pans out. In a lot of other RPGs, once you make the wrong choice, you quickly realize the folly of your mistake. But with Wasteland 2, you may not realize for days, which at this point, it's too late to load up a save game. I can't load up my old save game! I just found a 50 caliber anti-material rifle! The beauty of the game, however, is that there is more than one way to skin a chicken. The game offers you a multitude of ways to solve the various intriguing puzzles and dilemmas that you encounter in the Wasteland. If you're looking for a great party-based RPG to sink your teeth into, look no further. Wasteland 2 is the game for you. Sure, this game was actually released in 2013, but with the addition of a buttload of DLCs in 2014, we had to put it in the list. If you're looking for a realistic, exciting, and well-balanced first-person shooter, then Battlefield 4 has it all. Now don't get me wrong, there are some other pretty solid first-person shooters out there, and there are some that have simply recycled the material over and over again. I'm looking at you, Call of Duty. I think the horse is dead by now. But Battlefield 4 is definitely hands down the best FPS in the market today. The Frostbite Destruction is a valuable strategic addition, allowing you to really think outside the box when it comes to survival. Regrettably, the single-player campaign is a major disappointment, and BF4 doesn't have the amazing co-op missions that BF3 has, which is a major bummer. But who knows? Maybe we'll get it back in Battlefield Hardline or Battlefield 5. The addition of content-rich DLC keeps your wallet light, but adds hours and hours of extra enjoyment. Now honestly, I kind of knew that I wouldn't really like this game from the get-go, but I was willing to give it a shot. The Elder Scrolls Online doesn't really stand out from existing free or established IPs. It's not a bad game, but honestly I expected a lot more from a game with such a rich heritage. I had hoped that they would dare to rise up above the crowd and define a new genre, one worthy to be associated with Skyrim. It seems as if the devs just wanted to jump on the MMORPG bandwagon and make some more cash. Very uninspiring, almost embarrassing. Like that one cousin you have that nobody really wants to talk about. Unlike Skyrim, there is practically no immersion, and you're just left running around gathering 10 of these things and dropping off this scroll. Doing the grind, doing the grind. If I were you, I'd pass.